Let's go. What's up? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Michael Music. I am currently 22 years old. I came across this great book called Think and Grow Rich when I was 19 years old, and I've been studying it for quite some time now. And I've heard many stories about this book. I've heard that it has actually produced more millionaires than any other book. I've looked up to mentors who have studied this book every day uh, for a great portion of their life. And so I was inspired to not only just study this almost every single night, but really go live and just share an open conversation about it. I think this is great stuff. And we're going to get into the chapter on imagination today. So, yesterday we started this chapter on imagination. It is the fifth step toward riches, chapter 6. And we really dove into two types of imagination. We talked about the synthetic imagination and we talked about the creative imagination. And how do each of these portions of the imagination play a role into the Think and Grow Rich philosophy? So those were some things discussed. Uh, just as a refresher, if any of you are tuning in, you aren't really sure what either is. So the synthetic imagination is when you are rearranging old concepts, ideas, or plans into new combinations. So this faculty essentially creates nothing, but it's rearranging your old experiences, things that you already know how to do. And this is the faculty of your imagination that you will be using much more often when you are creating plans as you're on your way to whatever goal you have written down in your goal card. And secondly, we talked about the creative imagination. And now this is a synonym, which means it's the same word. You can replace it with the word the sixth sense. So the creative imagination is actually the finite. It's this faculty where the finite mind of man has direct communication with infinite intelligence. It's where hunches and inspirations come from, and it it's a really powerful thing. So what's going to happen is there's a whole section, or I think a chapter, dedicated to the sixth sense, which is going to elaborate much more on this. So we'll spend a week talking about the sixth sense and creative imagination. Now, what I wanted to do today was really just read 3 pages, but we're going to dive into them and hopefully understand what's going on with it. So there's a lot of great things happening in this chapter. So I'm going to get right into it. So Hill says both the synthetic and the creative faculties of imagination become more alert with use, just as any muscle or organ of the body develops through use. Desire. Desire is only a thought impulse. Desire is only a thought, an impulse. It is nebulous and what's this word say? Ephemeral. It is abstract and of no value until it has been transformed into its physical counterpart. So what's he saying? Your desire, right? It may mean a lot to you. You may be boiling with this obsession you have over this goal. But what is he saying about it? It really, it kind of hurts to hear it, but he's essentially saying it means nothing until it has been transformed into its physical counterpart. So keep that in mind, that where the true value of this desire comes into play is when it actually becomes a reality, when you can literally experience it or see it in the real world rather than just having it as a thought impulse. Now, while the synthetic imagination is the one which will be used most frequently in the process of transforming the impulse of desire into money, you must keep in mind the fact that you may face circumstances and situations which demand use of the creative imagination as well. Your imaginative faculty may have become weak through inaction. It can be revived and made alert through use. This faculty does not die, though it may become quiescent through lack of use. So keep in mind, we're talking about the imagination, and we're essentially talking about it like it's a muscle, like it's a physical muscle, except this time we're talking about a mental muscle. He says, center your attention for the time being on the development of the synthetic imagination, because this is the faculty which you will use more often in the process of converting desire into money. So, like we said, focus mainly on the synthetic imagination. What you already know is almost enough to help you get to where you need to be. All we're going to do is rearrange our old experiences, our plans. What else are we doing? And old concepts, ideas that we already had. We're just rearranging it, looking at it a different way to form new plans. So we are forming new plans through this imagination, but we're essentially taking what we already know. That's what's cool about it. And he's saying that this is the faculty of our imagination that we're going to be focusing on. Now, transformation of the intangible impulse of desire into the tangible reality of money calls for the use of a plan or plans. These plans must be formed with the aid of the imagination and mainly with the synthetic faculty. Okay, so why is it so important that if you want to transform desire into its physical counterpart of money, why is it so important that it requires a plan or plans for action? And how do you form these plans? What faculty of your imagination do you mainly use to form these plans? Hill says, read the entire book through, then come back to this chapter and begin at once to put your imagination to work on the building of a plan or plans for the transformation of your desire into money. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Okay, so he says, read the entire book through, then come back to this chapter and begin at once to put your imagination to work on the building of a plan or plans for the transformation of your desire into money. Detailed instructions for the building of plans have been given in almost every chapter. He says, carry out the instructions best suited to your needs. Reduce your plan to writing if you have not done so, if you've not already done so. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. So what's cool about it? We're talking about desire, which is in our head. And we want to talk about, okay, it doesn't have value until it is created into its concrete form. So let me ask you, what is the fastest way that you can literally do without even getting up from your chair right now? If you have a few things, what is the fastest way to convert your desire into its physical form? I'll tell you, it is to simply write it down, whether this be writing it down on a goal card, writing out a plan on a piece of paper. All you need is a pen and a piece of paper, and you can turn that desire, you can literally turn it from mental to physical. Now, if you understand that you literally convert it from energy to material form, right? This is how nature works. This is cool stuff. It's so simple to write it down on a piece of paper, and yet so many aren't doing it. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. Read the preceding sentence once more. Read it out loud, very slowly, and as you do so, Remember the moment you reduced the statement of your desire and a plan for its realization to writing, you have actually taken the first of a series of steps which will enable you to convert the thought into its physical counterpart. Okay, so I'm gonna do what he says. I'm gonna read the sentence once more. He is literally explaining here that you have taken the first of the series of steps simply by writing it down. He says, carry out the instructions best suited to your needs. Reduce your plan to writing if you have not already done so. The moment you complete this, you will have definitely given concrete form to the intangible desire. The moment you write it down, all you got to do, use your synthetic imagination, come up with a plan, because you can't just say what you want. That's what I'm realizing from sharing this. And this is, I'll be the first to admit, I haven't done this yet, but have I written out what I intend to give for the money that I want? Does it justify the law of compensation, what I intend to give in service for what I want to receive? Have I written this out on a piece of paper? Have I turned it from just an idea in my head to a physical and concrete form? Now, Hill goes on to say, the earth on which you live, you yourself and every other material thing are the result of evolutionary change through which microscopic bits of matter have been organized and arranged in orderly fashion. Moreover, and this statement is of stupendous importance, this earth, every one of the billions of individual cells of your body and every atom of matter began as an intangible form of energy. So let's pause there. Think about science. We're talking about before the Big Bang, right? Like this earth, was it created before the Big Bang, or whatever theory you believe how the universe was created? At one point before, it was just energy. This was just floating space. We're talking about the earth. It went from energy to now material form. This has been a staple of basically what Mother Nature is saying. And all we're doing here is following the same rules that Mother Nature has laid out for us in the way she works. So isn't that pretty cool? If you really think about this, I'll read further so that you can understand. So I'll repeat what it just said. He said, "This earth, every one of the billions of individual cells of your body and every atom of matter began as an intangible form of energy." Hill says desire is a thought impulse. Thought impulses are forms of energy. When you begin with the thought impulse, desire to accumulate money, you are drafting into your service the same stuff that nature used in creating this earth and every material form in the universe, including the body and brain in which the thought impulses function. As far as science has been able to determine, the entire universe consists of but two elements, matter and energy. So let me pause here. Okay, he says, when you begin, I'm repeating what he said. He said, when you begin with the thought impulse desire to accumulate money, you are drafting into your service the same stuff that nature used in creating this earth and every material form in the universe, including the body and brain in which the thought impulse functions. So, what's that same stuff that nature used in creating this earth? I'll bring it back to the science of getting rich. You know, there's this author, Wallace C. Wattles, who wrote this book, The Science of Getting Rich. And he said that there is a formless thinking substance which permeates, penetrates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. A thought held in this substance produces the thing that is imaged in that thought. So, how does that relate? I just had to say that because I noticed Napoleon Hill is saying the same thing, that there's this thinking stuff that nature used to create this earth, right? There's these laws of energy. In physics class, they'll teach you the big law of energy is energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So is it fair to say that what you want is already here? You just haven't yet changed the energy from desire into its material form. Okay, now I'll get back closer to reality and just keep reading. Hill says, as far as science has been able to determine, the entire universe consists of but two elements, matter and energy. Through the combination of energy and matter has been created everything perceptible to man, from the largest star which floats in the heavens down to and including man himself. You are now engaged in the task of trying to profit by nature's method. You are, sincerely and earnestly, we hope, trying to adapt yourself to nature's laws by endeavoring to convert desire into its physical or monetary equivalent. You can do it. It has been done before. You can build a fortune through the aid of laws which are immutable, but first you must become familiar with these laws and learn to use them. Through repetition and by approaching the description of these principles from every conceivable angle, the author hopes to reveal to you the secret through which every great fortune has been accumulated. Strange and paradoxical as it may seem, the secret is not a secret. Nature herself advertises it in the earth on which we live. The stars, the planets, suspended within our view, in the elements above and below us and around us, in every blade of grass, in every form of life within our vision. Have you ever stopped to just check out nature and notice how a tree starts as a tiny seed, attracts nutrients to it, and through time, it eventually grows into a tree that is far taller than my height and probably your height? Do you notice that same seed is sort of the same metaphor for planting that desire into your head? And it operates by the same laws of nature that a tree will grow from an acorn. That desire will follow the same exact laws that happen when you plant it in your mind. So what happens to the acorn? How does it grow? It obtains nutrients. So how are you feeding your desire so that it grows? This is just one example, but like the question is like, how does nature advertise in every possible form that she has the same laws that we're working with here to obtain what it is that we want? This is cool stuff. All right, I'll wrap this up with nature advertises the secret in terms of biology in the conversion of a tiny cell so small that it may be lost on the point of a pin into the human being now reading this line. The conversion of desire into its physical equivalent is certainly no more miraculous. Do not become discouraged if you do not fully comprehend all that has been stated. Unless you have long been a student of the mind, it is not to be expected that you will assimilate all this is in this chapter upon a first reading. But you will in time make good progress. The principles which follow will open the way for understanding of imagination. Assimilate that which with you understand as you read this philosophy for the first time. Then when you reread and study it, you'll discover that something has happened to clarify it and give you a broader understanding of the whole. Above all, do not stop nor hesitate in your study of these principles until you have read the book at least 3 times, for then you will not want to stop. Okay, so pause there. He says, you don't want to, what I may have said may not have made sense to you, but even Napoleon Hill suggests you may not get this unless you read it 3 times. And then at that point, there's a reason why I keep reading this over and over, why there's some mentors that I've had that read this book over and over 100 times. And yeah, this is getting deep, but we're talking about how nature advertises herself in everything with the universe. We're essentially working to understand the laws and just operate the same way to convert our desire into money. So I want to pause there and leave those thoughts at that. I want to ask you, what'd you learn? What'd you like from this ideas in imagination? So we're getting a little deep uh, with it, but like the question is like, how deep can you truly go when you're talking about imagination? So I'll leave you with that. I'll leave you how I always leave you until we meet again in time and space. I'll see you all in the next event. Peace out.